Let's talk about the waiver wire ads for week 11. So number 1 on my list is Joshua Dobbs. If you would have told me that Dobbs would be the second leading rusher amongst all QBs, I would not have believed you. But with 368 yards on the ground, that is indeed the case. He also has 5 rushing touchdowns, and I don't see him slowing down in that department anytime soon. With him learning a new playbook and getting up to speed in Minnesota, I can see him relying on his legs for the next few weeks. As it stands, he averages 6.2 rushing attempts per game, and he boasts an 11-5 touchdown to interception ratio, so he's been pretty solid. If there was one hole in his game, I would say fumbles. He has 11 fumbles on the year and has lost 6 of them. If you can overlook that, then you may be able to pick up someone who has an arrow pointing straight up. He's 13th in the league with a QBR of 58, and he's on a team that loves to pass the ball. The Vikings pass the ball the 4th most of any team in the league with right around a 64% pass play rate. Over the next 2 weeks, he gets the Denver Broncos followed by the Chicago Bears, both very winnable games. And with the Vikings losing Alexander Mattison yesterday to a concussion, I have to think they're going to continue to rely on the pass. And if KJ Osborne is able to get back on the field and Justin Jefferson is able to start practicing again, then Dobbs will have even more weapons at his disposal. Dobbs is rostered in 53% of leagues, and I expect that number to take a jump even more after yesterday's performance, but there's a lot of upside here, and I think if you're looking for a quarterback at this stage of the season, you could do a lot worse. Next up, staying in Minnesota, Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler stepped in for Alexander Mattison yesterday after Mattison went down with a concussion, and he did pretty decent. He had 15 rushes for 45 yards and a touchdown. If it wasn't for that touchdown, it could have been a really ugly day at the office. You should see Chandler still have a pretty sizable role in this backfield. Now, like I mentioned, Minnesota does love to pass the ball, which doesn't really bode well for any running back in Minnesota, but if you're looking for an RB3, especially at this stage of the year, he is definitely someone to consider just based off of opportunity. Like I mentioned, this week the Vikings go up against Denver, who allow the most rushing yards per game with around 154, so if Mattison can't get clearance, then Chandler's definitely worth an add and potentially a start. He's only rostered in about 8% of leagues, and he really doesn't have much competition at this point. Cam Akers unfortunately went down with another Achilles injury, and he's out for the year. And Myles Gaskin may get called up from the practice squad, but I wouldn't expect him to get more than a touch or two. Next up, Quinton Johnson. I feel like we've all kind of been waiting for Johnston to break out since Mike Williams went down. I mean, he profiles as a very similar receiver at 6'4", around 215. He has the size and athleticism to be a 50-50 ball guy, but we've really yet to see it until yesterday. Yesterday, he corralled 4 of 4 targets for 34 yards and a touchdown, and I expect his role to continue to grow. With Josh Palmer going on IR, the Chargers are in need of pass catchers. Let's not forget that Keenan Allen also got dinged up yesterday with a shoulder injury. He did return and looked no worse for the wear, but I would definitely keep an eye on his status throughout the week. Johnston has seen a notable uptick in his workload over the last couple weeks, averaging right around 84% of the snaps, and this week he gets a very attackable Green Bay defense, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him build off of his good game he just had. He's only rostered in about 29% of leagues, and given that he was a first-round pick, I would like to think that the Chargers are going to try to get him going sooner rather than later. Lastly, staying in Los Angeles, Jaylen Gon. Jaylen Gon returned from IR last week after tearing his ACL in week 3 last year. He didn't look great last week, but yesterday he looked pretty solid. He caught 4 of 6 targets for 45 yards and a touchdown. And given how thin the Chargers are at receiver right now, it would not be surprising to see both Guyton and Johnston get 80+% of the snaps while Palmer is out. Guyton is pretty much available everywhere, and I would definitely prioritize Johnston over Guyton, but if you're in a deeper league, then Guyton is definitely someone to consider as well. Those are my waiver wire pickups heading into week 11. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and let me know your thoughts heading into week 11 in the comments below.